Lost in the Wilderness Far From Home. Presented by YourCashExchange.com and the Bigfoot Project. Story by Bill Turner. He had wandered too far from his clan, following the scent of a deer that had eluded him for hours. He was hungry, tired, and lost. He had never been this deep into the forest before, and he had no idea how to find his way back. He was a Bigfoot, a creature of legend and myth, but also a living being with needs and emotions. He heard a strange noise, like a bird chirping, but louder and more rhythmic. He followed the sound, curious and hopeful that it might lead him to food or shelter. He came across a clearing, where he saw a small wooden house with a metal roof. He smelled smoke and meat, and his mouth watered. He also smelled something else, something familiar but different. He smelled humans. He hid behind a tree, watching the house with caution and interest. He saw a man and a woman, both wearing clothes that covered most of their bodies. They looked like the humans he had seen in the magazines and books that his clan sometimes found in the trash. They were city dwellers, he guessed, who had come to the forest for a vacation or a retreat. He wondered what they were doing here, so far from their own kind. He felt a pang of loneliness, remembering his own family and friends. He wondered if they were looking for him, or if they had given up on him. He wished he could communicate with them, but he had no way of doing so. He had no phone, no radio, no internet. He only had his voice, which was a low growl that no human could understand. He decided to stay near the house, hoping to find a way to get some food or warmth. He was careful not to make any noise or leave any traces of his presence. He watched the man and the woman, trying to learn from their behavior and habits. He was intrigued by their actions, their expressions, their words. He wanted to know more about them, and maybe even befriend them. He was a Bigfoot, but he was also a curious and lonely soul. He waited until the night fell, and the moon and stars lit up the sky. He saw the man and the woman go inside the house, and he heard them talking and laughing. He smelled something delicious, like roasted meat and vegetables. He felt his stomach rumble, and he wished he could join them for dinner. He crept closer to the house, moving silently and stealthily. He avoided stepping on any branches or leaves that might make a sound. He reached the window, and he peeked inside. He saw the man and the woman sitting at a table, eating and drinking. They looked happy and relaxed, and he felt a surge of envy and admiration. He studied their faces, trying to read their emotions and thoughts. He saw that the man had brown hair and blue eyes, and he wore a beard and glasses. He saw that the woman had blonde hair and green eyes, and she wore earrings and a necklace. He thought they were both beautiful and handsome, and he wondered what they were like as people. He listened to their words, trying to understand their meaning and tone. He heard them talk about their work, their hobbies, their plans, their dreams. He heard them joke, compliment, tease, and praise each other. He heard them say, "I love you," and "I'm glad we're here." He heard them laugh, and he felt a warmth in his chest. He wanted to talk to them, to tell them who he was and what he wanted. He wanted to ask them for help, for food, for friendship. He wanted to share his story, his feelings, his hopes. He wanted to be part of their world, even for a moment. But he knew he couldn't. He knew they would be scared and angry if they saw him. He knew they would scream and run, or worse, attack and hurt him. He knew they would never accept him, never understand him, never love him. He knew he was a Bigfoot, and he was alone. He was so engrossed in watching and listening to the man and the woman that he didn't notice the branch that he was leaning on. He shifted his weight slightly, and the branch snapped with a loud crack. He gasped and ducked, hoping that they didn't hear him. But they did. He heard them stop talking and look at each other. He heard them say, "What was that?" and "Let's check it out." He heard them get up and walk towards the door. He panicked and ran, hoping to get away before they saw him. But he was too late. He heard the door open and the light spill out. He heard them step outside and shout, "Hey, who's there, and show yourself." He felt their eyes on him, and he froze. He turned and faced them, hoping to look harmless and friendly. But he didn't. He saw them scream and recoil. He saw them grab each other and back away. He saw them reach for their phones and flashlights. He saw them look at him with fear and disgust. He felt their rejection and hatred, and he cried. He lowered his head and whimpered, hoping to apologize and explain. But he couldn't. He knew they couldn't hear him or understand him. He knew they wouldn't listen to him or forgive him. He knew they would call the authorities or the media. He knew they would capture him or kill him. He knew he was a Bigfoot, and he was doomed. He ran as fast as he could, dodging the trees and bushes. He heard them chase after him, shouting and cursing. He heard them snap pictures and record videos, hoping to capture his image. He felt their hostility and greed, and he feared. He used his skills and instincts, honed by years of living in the forest. He knew how to blend in with the shadows and the foliage. He knew how to move silently and swiftly. He knew how to avoid detection and escape pursuit. He was a Bigfoot, and he was smart. He managed to lose them, and he found a safe spot to hide. He crouched behind a large rock, and he waited. He hoped they would give up and go back to their house. He hoped they would delete their pictures and videos and forget about him. He hoped they would leave him alone and let him live. But they didn't. He saw them search for him, using their phones and flashlights. He saw them trying to call for help by using their cell phones. He felt their anger and malice, and he despaired. He realized he had made a mistake, and he regretted. He wished he had never followed the noise, never seen the house, never peeked inside the window. He wished he had never been curious, never been lonely, never been hopeful. He wished he had never met them, never faced them, never cried for them. He wished he was a Bigfoot, and he was free. He heard them yell at him, and he felt the fear and the hate. He was a Bigfoot, and he was hunted. He used his strength and agility, developed by years of surviving in the forest. He knew how to climb the trees and jump the rocks. He knew how to swim the rivers and dig the tunnels. He knew how to fight back and defend himself. He was a Bigfoot, and he was brave. He sprinted towards the mountains, and he hoped. He hoped he could find his clan, or another Bigfoot. He hoped he could find a new home, or a safe place. He hoped he could find peace, or happiness. He was a Bigfoot, and he was hopeful. But they didn't give up. They followed him, determined and relentless. They tracked him, using their phones and flashlights. They cornered him, using their guns and ropes. They wanted him, dead or alive. They were humans, and they were ruthless. He fought for his life, resisting the ropes. He bit them, and he felt the flesh and the bone. He roared at them, and he felt the anger and the sorrow. He was a Bigfoot, and he was desperate. He used his cunning and intelligence, learned by years of observing the humans. He knew how to trick them and distract them. He knew how to break their devices and sabotage their vehicles. He knew how to escape their clutches and evade their sights. He was a Bigfoot, and he was smart. He managed to free himself, and he found a way to survive. He hid in the caves, and he waited. He waited for them to lose interest and leave him alone. He waited for them to forget him and move on. He waited for them to be human, and he was patient. He managed to elude them again, and he found a way to escape. He crossed the river, and he hoped. He hoped he could reach the other side and find a new path. He hoped he could outrun them and lose their trail. He hoped he could be a Bigfoot, and he was free. But they didn't stop. They followed him, reckless and foolish. They tried to cross the river, they never had a boat or a raft, just themselves. They failed to cross the river miserably. They lost their balance from the strong current, crashed into the rocks and the rapids. They were humans, and they were in trouble. He saw them, and he felt a conflict. He felt a mix of emotions, ranging from relief and joy to pity and guilt. He was a Bigfoot, and he was confused. He used his heart and conscience, shaped by years of living with his clan. He knew how to care for others and help them. He knew how to empathize with others and understand them. He knew how to forgive others and love them. He was a Bigfoot, and he was kind. He decided to save them, and he found a way to do it. He jumped into the river, and he risked it all. He risked his life and his freedom. He risked his safety and his happiness. He risked his identity and his dignity. He was a Bigfoot, and he was noble. He reached them, and he felt a shock. He felt their fear and their pain. He felt their gratitude and their awe. He was a Bigfoot, and he was seen. He saved them, and he felt a relief. He felt their weight and their warmth. He felt their pulse and their breath. He was a Bigfoot, and he was alive. He carried them, and he felt a struggle. He felt the water and the wind. He felt the rocks and the thorns. He was a Bigfoot, and he was strong. He reached the shore, and he felt a worry. He felt their wounds and their cold. He felt their coughs and their shivers. He was a Bigfoot, and he was concerned. He checked them, and he felt a hope. He felt their eyes and their smiles. He felt their hands and their hugs. He was a Bigfoot, and he was appreciated. He decided to help them, and he found a way to do it. He carried them back to the cabin, and he risked. He risked being seen and being caught. He risked being hated and being hurt. He risked being rejected and being alone. He was a Bigfoot, and he was generous. He reached the cabin, and he felt a surprise. He felt their words and their gestures. He felt their invitations and their offers. He was a Bigfoot, and he was welcomed. He entered the cabin, and he felt a curiosity. He felt their warmth and their comfort. He felt their belongings and their memories. He was a Bigfoot, and he was fascinated. He looked around, and he felt a wonder. He saw their pictures and their books. He saw their clothes and their tools. He saw their phones and their flashlights. He was a Bigfoot, and he was amazed. He noticed them, and he felt a nervousness. He felt their stares and their whispers. He felt their questions and their doubts. He was a Bigfoot, and he was anxious. He tried to communicate, and he felt a frustration. He used his gestures and his sounds. He used his expressions and his emotions. He used his actions and his intentions. He was a Bigfoot, and he was misunderstood. They tried to understand, and they felt a respect. They felt his kindness and his courage. They felt his intelligence and his nobility. They felt his pain and his loneliness. They were humans, and they were impressed. They decided to thank him, and they found a way to do it. They handed over all the cell phones with the pictures and videos on them that they had taken. They risked losing their evidence and their fame. They risked losing their credibility and their reputation. They risked losing their curiosity and their adventure. They were humans, and they were grateful. He received them, and he was amazed at this gesture. He felt their trust and their generosity. He felt their sincerity and their friendship. He felt their apology and their acceptance. He was a Bigfoot, and he was touched. He sat on the couch, and he felt a comfort. He felt their cushions and their blankets. He felt their warmth and their hospitality. He was a Bigfoot, and he was relaxed. He watched them, and he felt a curiosity. He saw them move and act. He saw them cook and eat. He saw them smile and talk. He was a Bigfoot, and he was interested. He smelled them, and he felt a hunger. He smelled their food and their drink. He smelled their fruits and their vegetables. He smelled their bread and their cheese. He was a Bigfoot, and he was famished. They noticed him, and they felt a sympathy. They felt his gaze and his drool. They felt his stomach and his ribs. They felt his need and his desire. They were humans, and they were compassionate. They decided to feed him, and they found a way to do it. They found some food, fruits and vegetables from the kitchen and handed them to the hungry Bigfoot. He accepted them, and he felt a delight. He felt their taste and their freshness. He felt their juice and their crunch. He felt their nourishment and their satisfaction. He was a Bigfoot, and he was grateful. They became friends, and they felt a joy. They felt their bond and their trust. They felt their connection and their understanding. They were humans and a Bigfoot, and they were happy. They kept in touch, and they felt a loyalty. They found a way to communicate by using a series of their gifts and their messages. They were humans and a Bigfoot, and they were faithful. They decided to visit him, and they found a way to do it. They rented the same cabin every year and met up with their new friend, the Bigfoot. And they risked. They risked their jobs and their families. They never told a single person about their experience and decided to keep private. They were humans and a Bigfoot, and they were adventurous. They spent time with him, and they felt a love. They felt his presence and his company. They felt his stories and his jokes. They felt his hugs and his kisses. They were humans and a Bigfoot, and they found a bond that has reached new heights. They lived happily throughout the years, and they felt a peace. They felt their harmony and their balance. They felt their freedom and their bliss. They felt their destiny and their purpose. They were humans and a Bigfoot, and they were complete. Thank you for listening to this story by yourcashexchange.com and the Bigfoot Project, where we have over 100 Bigfoot-related items for you to browse.